Since I'll be the one spending the most time at home, the largest room here belongs to me." With those words, this woman began to explore our new house like it was hers. My anger reached its peak at her audacious behavior and remarks. "Excuse me, your room? And where exactly is that? If you insist." At my words, my sister-in-law turned beet red and lunged at me. "My name is Sophia, a 32-year-old corporate worker. My husband, George, and I have been together since high school and have been married for 7 years. Perhaps because we've spent nearly half our lives together, our relationship is more like of an old married couple, compared to other married couples of our age. However, I can't think of anyone else to be with other than George. I even have a good relationship with my in-laws and currently, we're living with them for various reasons. My father-in-law will be retiring in a few months, and my mother-in-law works part-time. We all share household chores, and we, of course, contribute to the household expenses. Everything was going relatively well, but then the devil showed up unexpectedly. One Sunday, we were enjoying a peaceful day weekend. Then, we heard the beeping sound of a truck backing up outside. Did someone order anything? We asked each other. My room is the one on the right on the second floor, so please start there. Oh, I just realized I don't have the key. Hey, open the door for me. Huh, this voice, no way. I shivered at the familiar voice. When we went to the front door, there was Charlotte, my sister-in-law, who we hadn't seen in years. Behind her were several movers, holding cardboard boxes. "Hold on, Charlotte, what do you think you're doing showing up out of the blue without even a call? And who are these guys?" At my mother-in-law's words, Charlotte looked puzzled. "What do you mean?" "I just quit my job and became unemployed, so I'm moving back home. It's my parents' house, so I don't have to tell you guys beforehand." We were all speechless at Charlotte's gleeful response. Behind her, the confused movers stood. "Don't mind them. Just go ahead and move my stuff in," Charlotte said, and then she strutted into our house and up the stairs. "Huh. My room's been turned into a storage room. Dang. Hey, move these stuff out now." The shrill voice of Charlotte yelling on the second floor made me ask, What should we do?" My husband and my in-laws sighed deeply in response. "Sigh. Let's listen to her first and then try to get her out. Knowing her personality, she won't listen if we simply tell her to leave." My father-in-law, sighing deeply, seemed to age in an instant. We decided to stack Charlotte's belongings in the hallway for the time being and started discussing what to do. Charlotte's sulking face was just as annoying as I remembered. "By the way, why is George and his wife here? Are you guys living mom and dad because you're broke or something?" Charlotte snorted, bringing back unpleasant memories for me. Charlotte is 2 years younger than me, but I've disliked this girl since she was in high school. That's because we both graduated from the same high school. Back in our student days, George's sister, Charlotte, approached me saying, "You're George's girlfriend, right? In that case, why don't you lend me some money since I'm your sister-in-law?" Despite the fact that I was older than her, she disrespectfully addressed me from our very first encounter and even asked me for money. Although I was an only child, I didn't appreciate how casually she talked to her older brother either. I replied, "What? No way." Of course, even though she was my boyfriend's sister, I wasn't big enough of a person to give money to someone with such an attitude. On hearing my response, Charlotte remarked, "Wow, you're so stingy. Damn." She gave me a dirty look and then walked off. "You're the insane one here." This was my unpleasant first encounter with my sister-in-law, Charlotte. Apparently, Charlotte's attitude towards her family was even worse. and my in-laws had been concerned about it since long ago. She was constantly getting into trouble in school, causing her parents to be called to school at least twice a month. Even after graduating from high school, Charlotte remained unemployed and spent her days goofing around. At our wedding ceremony, she drank a lot and got incredibly drunk. Every time she spotted a man to her liking, she would make a fuss. When she saw me in my wedding dress, she pointed and said, "It doesn't suit you at all," and bursted into laughter. She was just awful. As a result of her behavior that day, her relationship with her own family turned sour, to the point of almost being disowned. Charlotte, who got angry in return, left the house, but after a few years, she appeared as if nothing had happened, which left our family completely flabbergasted. It was time for our lease renewal at our previous apartment, but our new house isn't ready yet, so Dad let us stay here. George explained, shooting Charlotte a glowering look. "George, you're building a house? Wow, I see you're really doing well," Charlotte said with a mocking laugh. "After George and Sophia's house is finished, we're moving out too. Charlotte, please find a new place and a job and leave this house by then," said my mother-in-law coldly. "How can you be so cold to a daughter who's just gone through a breakup and is without a job? Can you really call yourself a mother? So, when George's house is finished, that means a fresh start in a new house? You treat George so much better than me." Charlotte stared back at her parents, stomped up the stairs with heavy footsteps, and left. According to Charlotte, she had broken up with her boyfriend, lost herself, and came back home. From that day, our peaceful family life was ruined because of Charlotte. Our lifestyles didn't match. She made loud phone calls with her friends late at night, which caused George to lose his temper, and they often ended up fighting. Despite not doing any housework, whenever I cooked, she would butt in, saying, "What? Fish? I hate them because they have too many sharp, tiny bones. Can you cook us meat? I want me some meatloaf." To this intrusive Charlotte, I said, "If you want meatloaf, please cook it yourself. Or at least contribute a little money to the household. How about that?" Charlotte always spoke to me with an attitude. I despise her, so I always spoke to her in a formal tone, in a way to remind her that I'm not one of her little friends. She never referred to me as anything other than "Hey" or George's wife. So, I decided to return the favor by only referring to her as "Hey." Of course, I was aware that she hated fish. Why do I have to contribute money to my own household? You're just a parasite living off of George's money and my family. Don't act so high and mighty. I was dumbfounded by Charlotte's audacity. Really? Is that how you see it? How's your job hunting and apartment search going? Our new home is almost complete, I retorted. At my words, Charlotte's face turned red for a moment before she replied with an oddly cheerful, "Don't worry, I've thought it all through," and looked at me with a self-satisfied smirk. During such a heated exchange, my mother-in-law, Susan, appeared concerned and said, "Sophia, dear, I'm really sorry if Charlotte is bothering you. Are you okay?" Everyone was feeling worn out dealing with Charlotte, who barely listened to anyone. "I'm fine, Susan. But you should also take it easy. It seems like Charlotte has misunderstood something. Is everything all right?" At my words, Susan let out a deep sigh. "Even when her father and I try to talk to her, she just locks herself in her room and tells us to stop nagging. I wonder if she'd come out if we set off a bug bomb." Susan joked, making me laugh. Days passed, and our dream home was finally complete. George and I had worked tirelessly, managing to accumulate a significant down payment. The kitchen was filled with my personal touches, and the bathroom was designed to be a sanctuary for my bath-loving husband. It was our dream home. As we were unpacking and enjoying ourselves, the doorbell rang. Knowing that George's parents were coming to help, I peeked at the monitor to see Charlotte tagging along. Man, I really don't want to have her in our new place. I couldn't help but grimace at the sight. Charlotte brazenly entered our new home, and with a pompous attitude, said, "George did a good job. This place is really spacious. New-built homes are the best after all." She just went ahead, opened the doors to every room without even asking. I wanted to give her a piece of my mind right then and there. "Hey, that's rude." When George's father scolded her, she made a sulked and replied, "What's the problem? This is gonna be my place from now on, isn't it?" Upon hearing her words, George instantly retorted, "Huh? Quit it with your nonsense. You obviously don't have a room here, do you?" Despite George's serious tone, she continued, "But if my parents are moving in here, then from today, this is my parents' house, right? So, I do have a right to live here." We were all speechless at her audacity. It was clear that from the start, Charlotte had plans to move into our house. Further, she declared, "Since I'll be the one spending the most time at home, the largest room here belongs to me." At Charlotte's defiant words, I felt something snap inside me. "Excuse me? Your room? Let me see, if you're insisting, then." I quietly pointed to the storage shed outside meant for garden tools. "Even if I were to bend over backward, the only place I can think of to prepare for you would be that old shed. Oh, and of course, you'd still need to pay monthly rent. Actually, I don't want you in our new house at all. Can you please just leave already?" Upon hearing my words, my sister-in-law Charlotte blushed crimson. "Are you joking?" she shouted, lunging at me. Thankfully, my husband George stepped in promptly. "Enough is enough, Charlotte," he said. "Stop causing us trouble." Unlike his wildly unruly sister, George was a calm and collected man. The only one he'd ever raise his voice against would be this woman. Charlotte, who never has any respect for her older brother, retorted, "George, you shut up. No, you're the one who needs to be quiet. Charlotte, enough is enough." When our father-in-law's voice thundered down, even Charlotte was silenced. "Charlotte, quit it with your nonsense and listen now. We're not moving in here, and you should think of our old home as gone." "What?" I had to suppress a laugh as I looked at Charlotte, whose expression was like a deer caught in headlights. From the beginning, Charlotte seemed to believe that George and I, along with her parents, would continue to live together in our new home. But that was not the case. We'd been informed a while back that her parents were planning to sell the old family home and move to the countryside. The reason was simple. "We're just tired of being bothered by Charlotte all the time. We want to enjoy our retirement in peace." Apparently, our mother-in-law had said those words in frustration. Charlotte had left their old home saying, "I never want to see this house again. I don't consider you guys as parents to me. Get out of my sight already." My in-laws were worn down from living with her. Short-tempered Charlotte had been causing problems all along, some even leading to lawsuits. Her parents had been paying out settlements for her, yet Charlotte showed no signs of remorse. The reason our mother-in-law had started working part-time was to make these payments. The sum they had to bear due to Charlotte was substantial. George and I had been supporting them as much as we could, finally managing to lead a peaceful life these past few years. Despite all that, Charlotte, who seemed to have forgotten all she'd done, was ungrateful for her parents and would only rely on them when it suited her. I was beyond frustrated with her. "Then, I'll live in your new house with you guys. Or else, I'll be homeless. Charlotte finally showed signs of panic when she learned the truth. Enough already, Charlotte. It's a definite no. We tried to talk to you so many times, but you never listened. Did you think we would forgive you for everything just because we're your parents? We're humans too, we have feelings. And remember, you were the one who said, "You guys aren't my parents. Get out of my sight already." Our mother-in-law spoke out coldly to Charlotte, who wore an expression we'd never seen before. Seeing Charlotte crumble, George and I exchanged a knowing look. Dad, it's not because of a heartbreak or losing her job that she came back in the first place. Sophia and I know everything. At George's words, Charlotte paled. In truth, Charlotte dated her colleague who was married. She knew he was married, but still didn't end their affair, and finally, his wife found out about it. The affair got out at work, and both Charlotte and her lover got fired. They're divorced now, but your lover's wife was my friend. The other day, I saw her after a long time, but she had lost so much weight that I almost didn't recognize her. Had fun being a homewrecker? You know, there's a special place for hell for people like you. I felt like I was about to cry. I had discussed this with my husband, but we hadn't talked to my in-laws yet. We didn't want to upset them. No, it's not like that. I fell in love with him, so I couldn't help it. I watched my sister-in-law spout out the same excuses that cheaters usually use with a cold gaze. I glanced at my in-laws and they looked furious. They dragged my sister-in-law back to their place. Later on, I heard from my in-laws that my sister-in-law had started doing housework out of desperation to move in with them to their new place. But that didn't change how my in-laws felt. Hurry up and pack your things. Get out of here. My father-in-law kept saying, like a mantra. Why? I've been trying hard with the housework. I've been doing the laundry and vacuuming the house. What more do you want? She ended up lashing out in the end. There's no more or less to it. What you're doing is what's expected. It's called taking care of yourself. Did you think you'd be praised for that? You're a grown adult. My mother-in-law shot back, and my sister-in-law blushed in embarrassment. To add insult to injury. You know, I've already written my will. All the inheritance will go to George. There isn't much left because of you. You've been written out of the will. It's up to the court, but it will likely go through. My father-in-law announced, and my sister-in-law's eyes widened in surprise. Sometime later, my in-laws' moving day arrived, timed with my father-in-law's retirement. My sister-in-law had pared down her belongings to just a single suitcase. According to my mother-in-law, she had sold most of her things for money. As we saw my in-laws off, we turned to head back to our car, but my sister-in-law followed us for some reason. What is it? I asked, puzzled. I have nowhere to go. Hey bro and sis, please. I want to live in your house too. I'll take the small room. She pleaded, but more than anything, hearing her call me sis sent chills down my spine. I glanced at George and he seemed to feel the same way. Hell no. Live with you? Not even in your wildest dreams would I allow that. By now, we're leaving. He told her off bluntly, and we got in the car and drove off. A few days later, while we were enjoying a peaceful day off, our doorbell rang. When we saw the person standing at our door, we both let out a sigh. Hey now. Stop bothering us. Do you want us to call the cops on you? When I opened the door, my sister-in-law was there, prostrating herself in front of me. Amid her seemingly futile performance, she pleaded, "Please, let me stay here. I've been living in hotel rooms and doing odd jobs occasionally. But I don't want to live like this anymore." My husband and I were flabbergasted at her self-inflicted misery. "I don't care. We're no longer related to you anyway." But as I tried to shut the door, she grabbed hold of it. "At least give me some money. I maxed out my credit cards thinking my parents would cover it for me again this month. And I have to pay my alimony. Right? If my lover's wife was really your friend, ask your friend to lower the amount for me." We didn't want to talk to her at all, but her brazen selfishness was too much. I snapped, "Don't mess with me. I've never seen such a lowlife like you before. I don't want to see your face again, so stay away from me." My sister-in-law wouldn't leave, but her face suddenly paled. She noticed our dogs barking from inside our house. "Wait, you have a dog?" she asked. "We adopted one of the 3 puppies that my parents' dog gave birth to. Want to see it?" As soon as I said this, she freaked out. "What? No way! I can't stand dogs. You must be crazy to live with a dog. I'd rather not be part of this house." She stormed off, spewing her anger. The truth is, my sister-in-law has a strong dislike for dogs. According to George, she was traumatized by a large dog that playfully chased her when she was a child and has hated even the sight of dogs ever since. "Thanks for chasing off that chick, Marin," I said, petting our toy poodle. We haven't seen my sister-in-law since then, but a friend told me that she saw her walking in ragged clothes in a distant town. She probably isn't living well, but that's none of my business. I hope she struggles. George and I are enjoying a peaceful life in our new home. George's parents also seem to be enjoying their country life, occasionally video calling us and visiting. They were able to keep their address from my sister-in-law, so she hasn't pulled up to their place so far. Both of them look healthier and happier, as if they've lost a burden. A few months after moving into our new house, we got blessed with a new life. I am now expecting a baby. I had heard that stress could cause fertility issues, so maybe that was why we couldn't conceive before. We're expecting a new family member next year. Looking at George, smiling happily next to me, I gently stroked my small bump, hoping that he would always be by my side in the future. Can't be serious. What's going on here? Trembling, Robert met my steady gaze as I calmly stated, "I don't know. But since you mentioned divorce, I'll proceed with it. Also, I'll discuss this with your parents. They'll surely understand the truth. My name is Nancy. I'm 28 years old. I work for a company that deals in household goods in the HR department. I met Robert at a drinking party through a friend. Robert runs a tech business with his parents. I decided to marry him because his carefree nature was a comfort to me, working in an organizational setting. Even after marriage, I got along well with Robert, but his family was a constant source of worry. His parents believed that a woman should join her husband's family after marriage, a view that clashed with my desire to continue working. Every time we met, they would make snide remarks. "Nancy, you're still working? It's shameful for a woman to be out and about. Quit your job and help out as Robert's wife." Jennifer, my mother-in-law, would often summon me to say these things. Dodging her was one thing, but spending my precious days off dealing with her was a significant stress. I enjoy my job, recently tasked with the selection of new hires. I look forward to building my career. The company culture is positive, and while work has its challenges, I don't face unpleasantness. It's not just about the income, I want to continue working. Why don't you say something to Robert? When Jennifer tried to involve him, Robert, albeit vaguely, respected my wishes. If Nancy wants to work, then let her. Dad's still healthy, and it's not like I'm taking over immediately. Let her have her freedom at home. Hearing Robert's words, Jennifer narrowed her eyes in irritation and responded angrily. You've become quite the outspoken son. Living together is obviously better. God knows what Nancy has told you. Robert sighed in annoyance and retorted. Even if she helped, it's not like our sales would suddenly skyrocket. Having her work increases our income, which is more helpful. Hearing this, I couldn't deny feeling a bit disappointed, wishing for more affectionate words. However, I appreciated that he supported the lifestyle I wanted. I decided to overlook my feelings and be thankful to Robert. But as the months, half a year, and then a year went by, things couldn't stay the same. Jennifer relentlessly pressed for cohabitation and for me to quit my job. It seemed her fixation on this was strong, showing no signs of compromise. And, overwhelmed with dissatisfaction to the point of madness, she exclaimed, "It's absurd you're so obsessed with working outside. What are you after? Men? Yes, that must be it. While married to Robert, you're losing your head over men at work. How disgusting and shameful." Her baseless accusations and hysteria made calming her down a task, requiring coffee and sweets to manage her mood. Of course, Robert never believed Jennifer's delusions. However, he seemed to grow weary of her frequent outbursts and tantrums, and his support for me waned. Look, if it calms Mom down, shouldn't we just compromise? Being raged at every time is stressful for you, Nancy. Eventually, I'll take over the business anyway, so quitting and moving in might be quicker than convincing her. Robert mumbled, looking down at the dining table. Finishing his thought, he cradled his head in his hands, sighing deeply. Robert was caught between Jennifer and me, and I could understand his pain. But it shocked me that he had let go of the support he used to give me. Why? Why would you say that, Robert? I stopped washing dishes, my voice trembling with tears. What do you mean, why? You see how Mom acts. I'm tired of being attacked for continuing our life this way. And you must be too, right? After repeating the same for a year, do you still want to work? Indeed, Jennifer's escalating insults and abuse had pushed me to my limit. But my job was an essential part of my life. I didn't want to give it up. Considering Jennifer's nature, cohabiting could just start a new series of harassments against me. Yes, but... Robert, you're her son. Can't you talk some sense into her? You said it was beneficial for us if I worked, increasing our income. Don't give in to your mom. There's no guarantee that living together solves everything. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I clenched my fists, trying to hold back my emotions. I felt betrayed by Robert, mixed with sadness and anger. Then, irritated, Robert slammed the newspaper on the table, stood up abruptly, making a loud noise. Enough. That's old news. Sticking to the same view won't always work out. Nancy, you're stubborn and selfish. Wait. You can't just say what suits you and flip your stance when it's inconvenient. That's dishonest. I retorted strongly as Robert tried to leave. Our day ended with such an argument, leaving me exhausted. I was so drained, I barely managed to clean up before I just went to bed for the day. Why did things end up like this? Jennifer was a problem, but what really hurt was how Robert's attitude had changed. If Robert drifted away, I'd be isolated without any help. Feeling utterly alone, with no one on my side, made me feel incredibly vulnerable. After that fight, things were awkward between us, But a few weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. After feeling unwell for some days and being urged by coworkers to see a doctor, I discovered I was 2 months pregnant. Robert was happy about the news. He also became more considerate of my condition during the pregnancy. If it's a boy, could he be my successor? If it's a girl, I hope she's as cute as Nancy. You're handling both work and house chores now, but it's an important time, and you shouldn't overdo it. I was touched by his kind words. But then, as if on cue, Robert casually brought up the last thing I wanted to hear. How about taking this chance to quit your job? Working while pregnant must be hard on you, and it's a good opportunity. If we live with my parents, my mom can take care of the house, so you can rest. At that moment, my emotions surged. Had he forgotten all the discussions and fights we've had so far, just like that? To say such a thing so easily, with a smile, no less. Don't talk nonsense. This isn't a good opportunity. It's as if you're using this baby we were so happy about as an excuse to make me submit to your family's demands. That's not why we decided to have a child, is it? I'm not quitting my job. As I fired back, Robert looked taken aback, as if he was under pressure. Calm down. Why are you so angry? Quitting a job because of pregnancy is quite common. It might be common, but my company has maternity and parental leave policies in place. I plan to take maternity leave, then return to work once things settle down. Plus, if I quit now, I'll lose all the income during the leave. Robert seemed to drift off halfway through my explanation but snapped to attention towards the end. Seemingly hooked by the mention of money. Oh, so maybe quitting after the parental leave ends could work. Let's just take the leave for now and figure out the rest later. With a vague, non-committal tone, Robert said this and looked away from me, continuing to watch TV as if nothing had happened. Seeing his profile as he pretended nothing was amiss, I sighed without realizing it. I hadn't noticed before we were married, but I never thought he'd be such a fair-weather, agreeable man. From now on, I need to be firmer. A few months later, I returned to my parents' home to give birth, wanting to be near my family during this time. I wanted nothing to do with my in-laws or Jennifer around the birth. When I told my parents about Jennifer and Robert, they were very worried about me and even angrier at Robert than I was. People who change their minds like that can't be trusted. You should not stay with him. If this continues, it might be worth considering a divorce. My mom said, her voice low and firm as she wielded the kitchen knife with more force than usual. Even I, who had directly confronted Robert, felt intimidated by her intensity. Thank you. But Robert isn't a bad person as long as Jennifer and his family aren't involved. Once the baby is born, our life will change, and I want to see how things go for a while. When I said that, Mom sighed worriedly. Nancy, it's good that you're patient, but you tend to keep too much to yourself. If it becomes too much, promise me you'll tell us right away, okay? Yeah, I understand. Feeling Mom's strong love, a few months later, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. We named her Sarah. I continued to live at my parents' house, not wanting to return to a place close to my in-laws, and eventually, after a year, I found a childcare center and planned to return to work. Though Robert did visit to see Sarah from time to time, we never discussed living together or quitting my job again. Actually, both of us seemed to avoid the topic. Mom didn't show her anger in front of me, but quietly pressured Robert. Now that the family is growing with the birth of our child, please make sure to support Nancy and Sarah properly. Thank you. Back in the house with Robert, nothing had changed with him or Jennifer. Jennifer would barge into our house to see her granddaughter, criticizing. How shameful! A woman who has a child and still insists on working instead of living with her husband's family has no shame. And Robert, in his way, would dismiss everything with, "Let's just see how things go. Parenting comes with its challenges." 2 years flew by. Sarah grew rapidly, now walking freely and starting to talk. I continued to work part-time while Sarah was in childcare, without moving in with my in-laws. Robert had become so accustomed to Jennifer's tirades and my persuasions that he would ignore our arguments, focusing on the TV. I had no expectations from Robert anymore. I hoped that someday, I could convince them on my own terms. One day, Sarah became ill. She was covered in red rashes that seemed to cause her pain or itchiness, making her cry in discomfort. Realizing the severity, I immediately took time off work and rushed Sarah to the hospital. The doctor suggested a blood test as a precaution. And when I mentioned we hadn't determined her blood type yet, they included it in the tests. I thought it was unnecessary, but agreed since the doctor recommended it. The diagnosis revealed that the rashes were due to atopic dermatitis, and she was prescribed specific medication for it. It was a relief to understand the inflammation and how to treat it. But the real issue arose from the blood test results. I am O-type, and so is Robert. Logically, our child should also be O-type. My reluctance for the blood type test was because it seemed obvious and unnecessary. Yet, the result puzzled me. Feeling an inexplicable chill, I returned home and seriously brought up the issue with Robert, discussing Sarah's atopy before showing him the blood type results. "Isn't it strange that both of us are O-type, but Sarah is a type?" As I hesitantly asked, Robert's complexion changed rapidly, and he shouted in anger, "This means divorce! Nancy, you must have been cheating at work!" Shocked by his terrifying aggression, I trembled. "Wait, this is just a report. It could be a mistake in the test results." "No way! You've been having children with another man. Mom said you were obsessed with work because you had a man on the side, and she was right. Pretending to be a career woman, freely mingling with men. What a philanderer!" Robert hurled insults at me with a face red with rage. Amidst the loud and violent shouting, I felt a profound disgust and instinctively closed my eyes. It was heartbreaking to be so misunderstood, and the vile language he used was shocking. "Stop it, don't talk like that. I would never cheat. You know I've been commuting between work and home every day, don't you? Don't you trust your own wife?" "Trust? There's no trust here. The test results say it all," Robert screamed, violently slapping the paper with the test results. It seemed we could no longer communicate. I had completely misjudged my choice of partner. I deeply felt the mistake in my choice. I won't raise someone else's child. I don't even want to see the face of a child born to such a despicable woman. Get out of this house immediately, both of you. And since you cheated, expect a claim for compensation in the divorce court." Robert's yelling filled the house, waking Sarah in the next room, who started crying. The rash hadn't even settled down yet. Imagine how uncomfortable she must feel. While I was heartbroken thinking about Sarah, Robert forcefully pushed our belongings at us, trying to throw us out on the spot. In a panic, I grabbed our essentials and the medication prescribed by the hospital. Then, at the doorstep, I made one last plea to Robert. "Please listen. It's too baffling not to investigate. If it bothers you so much, let's do a DNA test." Hearing this, Robert looked down on me with disdain, jutting out his chin. "Fine, do it. It'll just prove your infidelity. Go ahead and hang yourself with your actions." Once convinced, Robert, showing no willingness to bend, happily offered his hair for the test. Suddenly expelled from the house, we headed to my parents' home, a 2-hour bus ride away. By the time we arrived, I was exhausted. My mom was shocked to see us and furious after hearing the story. It's just too much. Kicking you out on such one-sided assumptions is crazy. Sure, the blood test results are strange, but we should be working together as a couple to figure this out. You should send such a husband back to his parents, Mom said firmly. She then tenderly applied medication to Sarah, who was still suffering from the rash, comforting her. It hurts, doesn't it? And it was scary. Sarah, you haven't done anything wrong. I apologized to my workplace and took a leave, relying on my parents' support to care for Sarah. Simultaneously, I sent Robert's hair for DNA testing, awaiting the outcome. Since I hadn't cheated, the blood type discrepancy was baffling. Although I didn't want to think about it, even if Robert had cheated, the child wouldn't have been born to the other woman, so this situation wouldn't make sense. After just over 2 weeks, the DNA test results came in. Together with Mom, I slowly opened the envelope. Inside, the information was surprising. Indeed, Sarah was without a doubt our child. And it also confirmed that I am O-type. However, it turned out Robert's blood type was actually A. I went back to the house we had been expelled from to share this fact. Anticipating conflict, I left Sarah with Mom. What are you doing here? You're the worst. Robert greeted me coldly, but I calmly showed him the test results. His eyes widened slowly as he looked at the paper, and his angry brows fell into a mix of confusion and worry. It can't be. How is this possible? Robert had always said he was O-type. Of course, he wouldn't lie about something like that, and he had always believed it to be true. I looked straight at Robert, who was shaking, and said calmly, "Let's talk about this with your parents. The truth will surely come out." Surprisingly, Robert nodded. He had mentioned before that both his parents were also O-type, which might not be the truth. The tension and fear of uncovering secrets about his birth made Robert shrink. He was a completely different person from when he had hurled insults at me. When we went to his parents' house, it seemed Robert had already discussed Sarah's blood type and my alleged infidelity, and Jennifer's gaze was icy cold towards me. "Why are you with that promiscuous woman?" Jennifer expressed her disgust. To her, Robert showed the DNA test results with trembling hands. "We shouldn't be talking about this. Look at this. You and Dad said my blood type was O, didn't you? Why does it say A here?" Jennifer slowly took it, scrutinizing the paper with a strained expression. Then, she led us to a back room and seated us on a couch. Sitting opposite us, Jennifer was silent, her demeanor formal. It seemed she had something to say, but she hesitated, biting her lip and looking down. "Mom, why are you silent? Is there a reason? You're O-type, Dad's O-type, so I should be O-type too, right?" Robert, trying to appear strong, was clearly anxious, his hands trembling under the table. "Yes, but..." Jennifer's face lost all its color, turning ashen like a doll's. She winced painfully, her lips quivering in a purple hue. "Why won't you tell me? Please, the truth." Despite noticing Jennifer's distress, Robert persisted in his questioning. After a few seconds of silence, Jennifer sighed quietly and began to speak. "There's something I've kept silent about. Robert, you're not actually the child of your dad and me." I gasped at Jennifer's words. "What? No way! What does that mean?" Of course, Robert was greatly shocked by the sudden confession. "Before I married your dad, I had a careless affair with another man. Robert, you are the child from that time. Robert is now 30 years old. The realization that the family he grew up with is falling apart must be a tremendous shock. Robert was already shaking. Does Dad know about this? When Robert asked, Jennifer looked pained. That expression alone was answer enough. So, you've been hiding this from me and Dad. At that point, Robert was so dismayed he seemed almost unable to speak, just staring at Jennifer with a look that was close to tears. Jennifer shed a single tear. Robert, I truly did care for you as my own, and raised you with all the love a parent could give. Jennifer had an affair shortly after her marriage and conceived a child from that liaison, pretending the child was her husband's and living a lie as a family. She continued to love her son, nonetheless. But even hearing that, I can't just accept it. So, was your affair partner a type? Why hide such a crucial thing? Robert, with tears welling up in his eyes, stood up to confront Jennifer. Probably. Jennifer murmured and then fell silent, looking down. What a revelation. Jennifer's long-kept secret came to light because of Sarah's blood type. Was it fate's cruel play, or a divine punishment? At least Sarah was undoubtedly mine and Robert's child, so there was no role for me in this. I decided to watch quietly, holding my breath. Can such things even happen? I never verified my blood type with a test. I've been healthy since I was a kid and never needed to. I just believed what Mom said about being O-type. I really am sorry. At that moment, Jennifer humbly responded. Quietly, the door to the room opened. I've heard everything. Standing there was father-in-law Daniel, looking beyond angry, his gaze chillingly cold. Daniel, too, had always been somewhat sarcastic towards me, overshadowed by Jennifer's more overt hostility. His face, usually concerned about his business's future, now betrayed his disappointment in Jennifer for her decades-long deceit. Is it true that Robert is not our child? Daniel asked Jennifer in a low voice. Daniel. You were listening? Caught off guard by the revelation that her secret conversation was overheard, Jennifer began to panic. While Jennifer scrambled for excuses, Daniel found the test results and scrutinized them. To have such an indecent relationship with another man. And you've been deceiving me with it until this age. Daniel's calm facade shattered instantly. He turned red with anger, furiously berating Jennifer. Don't say it like that. That's so unfair. Robert is our precious son. Haven't we raised him with care all these years? Yes, that's right. Deceived by you, I've cared for another man's child as my own for 30 years. With a loud bang, Daniel slammed the test results on the table. At his outburst, both Robert and I flinched. Unable to withstand Daniel's fury, Jennifer stood up to argue back. What's the use of getting angry now? I haven't been in touch with that man anymore, and it's been 30 years. It should be statute barred by now, shouldn't it? There's no statute on this. I never imagined you to be such a promiscuous woman. And the evidence is still standing right here. Daniel yelled, pointing at Robert. Caught in the crossfire of his parents' argument, Robert was too stunned to respond. Given this revelation, I can no longer stay married to Jennifer. We're getting a divorce. And you, Robert. If you're not my son, then don't ever come back to our home again. Wait, what? That can't be true. Amidst the escalating argument between the in-laws, Robert found himself thrown out of the house. Seemingly irrelevant to their dispute, I also left with him, and we ended up discussing our divorce over a meal at a nearby family restaurant. Look, I get it now. You didn't cheat. It was all a misunderstanding. Sarah is definitely our child, so let's cancel the divorce. We can go back to living in that house, right? True to his opportunistic nature, my husband now comes with a convenient proposal. It's surprising, really. Feeling disillusioned, I responded indifferently. No way. While the misunderstanding has been cleared, the words you said can't be taken back. The way you spoke to me was unforgivable, not to mention calling Sarah the worst things. I can't stay married to someone who can speak so lightly of us. The divorce will proceed. Wait, don't talk like that. As Robert tried to stop me, I gave him a cold smile. Maybe it's for the best, Robert. You wanted a wife who doesn't insist on working or disagreeing with the house, didn't you? You used to stand up for me, but gradually, you just followed Jennifer's lead. I don't need a husband who won't support me. Let's settle the rest through lawyers. Goodbye. I stood up quickly, leaving a bewildered Robert behind in the bustling family restaurant. As I boarded the bus again to fetch Sarah from my parents' house, Robert returned to his parental home only to find that, just as Daniel had said, he was not allowed inside, and of course, he was also fired from the family business. As expected, I received a message stating that the succession plans were now void. I ignored the message and immediately started looking for a law firm to proceed with the claim for compensation in the divorce proceedings. Robert's actions qualified as emotional harassment, enabling me to claim $20,000 in divorce compensation. I received complaints from Robert, stating he was jobless and couldn't pay, but I maintained a firm stance that the amount could not be reduced. Robert had not saved any money, assuming he would inherit the family business and become its president. I knew all too well that he had squandered any extra earnings on alcohol and gambling. Moreover, maintaining the apartment we had lived in would likely be impossible. On the other hand, after being kicked out of her home at 60 due to her affair, Jennifer managed to contact Brian, her past lover, seemingly intending to flee to him. Robert got in touch with Jennifer, and they decided to meet and head to Brian's home together, who was believed to be Robert's biological father. Brian was shocked and greatly bewildered when a woman from his past and an unexpected son suddenly appeared after 30 years. He tried to deny the past, claiming he couldn't remember such a thing and suggesting they might be mistaken. Jennifer insisted on a DNA test, offering to cover the costs. Furthermore, their argument at the doorstep was discovered by Brian's wife, who lives in the same house, leading to the three being interrogated about what was happening. Shockingly, at that time 30 years ago, Brian was already married, and his affair was exposed to his wife, leading to a divorce being thrust upon him in front of Jennifer and Robert. After my fight with Robert came Jennifer and Daniel's argument. And finally, the conflict between Brian and his wife ensued. One dramatic scene led to another, creating a commotion everywhere. During all this, I rented a new room close to my parents' house and started living there with Sarah. I never wanted to return to the apartment I shared with Robert, nor did I want to indefinitely rely on my parents. Afterwards, Mom said, "Robert was odd, and so was his family. Divorcing was the right decision. Let's take good care of Sarah together." She encouraged me warmly. Her occasional help has been invaluable. I apologized to my company for the leave, briefly explained the situation, and requested a transfer to a branch that was commutable from my new home. My previous performance was appreciated, and though the company regretted my departure, my transfer was approved, and I was able to return to work successfully. As I was starting this new life, Mom arrived at my house looking upset. "Can I talk to you?" It seemed she wasn't angry with me, so I let her in to listen. "Can you believe Robert came to our house? Unbelievable." Mom said this as she sipped the tea I had made, her eyebrows raised in disbelief. I felt a sense of disgust at Robert's pathetic behavior and sorry for the inconvenience caused to my parents. He said he couldn't pay child support because he was jobless and asked for help, relying on Nancy. When I told him you had started a new life, he begged us for money with a terrible look on his face. It was so bad, we had to kick him out right away. Mom recounted, finishing her tea feeling relieved. I'm sorry for causing trouble, Mom. When I apologized, Mom gave me a generous smile. It's okay, it's all in the past. I've already warned him I'll call the police if he shows up again, so he won't bother us anymore. Nancy, you need to move on and focus on yourself and Sarah. Mom said this and patted my shoulder. Encouraged by Mom's warmth, I couldn't help but tear up. By the way, Mom is definitely type O. After that, I received messages and voicemails from Robert almost daily. It seems that Robert, Jennifer, and Brian, all ousted from their respective homes, ended up living together out of convenience. Seeing their messages, I couldn't help but laugh at the bizarre combination. However, it's impossible for such a tumultuous group to live together harmoniously. As expected, it seems none of them are getting along well. They turned to me for help, but Mom sent them packing, audaciously asking for assistance. I ignored everything, blocking Robert's account and phone number. Robert's persistence didn't end there. He even showed up at my new workplace. But he never got to confront me. Having shared my fears about being stalked, the company was prepared. As soon as the surveillance cameras caught Robert, alarms sounded throughout the building. Startled by the alarm and the approaching security guards, Robert fled, a scene I watched from the safety of an internal monitor. My colleagues, having witnessed Robert's obsession, sympathized with me and promised to keep him away. Shortly after, an unexpected visitor arrived at my company. Jennifer, supposedly unrelated to me now. Unfortunately, she caught me in the hallway during my lunch break. I finally found you. Nancy, you need to take responsibility for once. Jennifer's angry voice echoed in the office hallway. Passing employees looked on worriedly as Jennifer, visibly more haggard and pale, began ranting at me. What? Why are you here at my office all of a sudden? I asked, bewildered. As I was bewildered, Jennifer, who had become significantly more haggard and pale-faced than before, yelled in a shrill voice. It's obvious, isn't it? If you hadn't investigated the blood type. If there hadn't been a DNA test, none of this would have happened. Your meddling has ruined everything I've built up. Everything is a mess now. Despite being responsible for her affair and keeping silent about the child she bore from it for over 30 years, Jennifer tried to forcibly shift the blame onto me. Just as Jennifer attempted to grab me, security personnel who had rushed over restrained her. Immediately after, the situation escalated to the point where the police were called. For some reason, Robert was there too, apparently watching from a hiding spot, and it seems they both ended up being interrogated by the police. I wish they would just stop. My new life has begun, and I've completely severed ties with Robert through divorce. Begging for a peaceful life, I went home, only to face a similar situation at work the next day. Just like the day before, someone had infiltrated the office and was waiting in the hallway. This time, it was Daniel who had come. I had never shared my workplace details with him, leaving me puzzled and slightly terrified about how he found me. As our eyes met, Daniel, with a frivolous smile, said, "Well, I know we've caused a lot of trouble in the past. Now that Jennifer and I are separated and Robert's been kicked out, we're actually short-staffed. Considering you were Robert's wife, why not help out at the company as an employee?" Don't be absurd. I was the wife of Robert, whom you disowned. I have nothing to do with you now. If you're headhunting, please look elsewhere, I responded calmly. At that, Daniel's demeanor shifted from smug to menacing as he aggressively confronted me. What? You're talking back to me? When you were married to Robert, it was all about not quitting your job and not living together, just doing whatever you wanted. Now, when I'm offering to start over and hire you, you're saying no? The nerve of women these days, all so insolent, it's infuriating. Daniel's rant continued unabashedly until security and the police arrived, much like when Jennifer had appeared, and took him away. With the departure of all three related parties from my workplace, the harrowing days of their uninvited visits came to an end, leaving me relieved and surrounded by concerned colleagues. Finally, peace of mind seems achievable as I dedicate myself more fully to my work. In the aftermath for Robert's family, it appears Daniel employed the reasoning he shared with me, despite the divorce, considering me still the ex-wife of his son, to propose a solution for their dire need of manpower in his business. Robert and Jennifer, facing dilemmas of shelter and financial insecurity, hesitantly accepted the offer of work and a place to stay. However, a family once fragmented by deceit and betrayal couldn't possibly reconcile to function harmoniously. Indeed, neither their domestic nor professional endeavors flourished, leading to daily disputes that resonated throughout the neighborhood, making them pariahs in their community. Nonetheless, they have consistently fulfilled the obligation of the divorce settlement payments. Payments are being monitored through a lawyer, ensuring that any interruption prompts immediate reminders for continuation. Given their current predicament, making divorce settlement payments likely compromises their living standards, leading to reluctant borrowing to make ends meet. Consequently, repaying this debt further exacerbates their financial distress. Caught in a vicious cycle, Robert appears to be exploited for cheap labor at Daniel's company. On my end, life has taken a positive turn. Bringing valuable expertise from my tenure at the headquarters, I've become an asset in my new role. Praised for efficiency and accuracy, I've quickly earned trust and respect from colleagues. Talks of salary increments and promotions are already on the horizon, signaling expectations for my continued excellence. The people here are kind and upbeat, making this a workplace where I wish to stay indefinitely. Child-rearing is progressing smoothly. During the day, Sarah attends a childcare center, and sometimes with Mom's assistance, she has grown significantly. Regular hospital visits have gradually improved her atopic dermatitis, bringing some peace of mind. Her earnest stories about her day at the childcare center are irresistibly adorable. Her third birthday is approaching, and Mom and I are discussing how to celebrate it. Though she might not remember it, we want to give her a beautiful, delightful celebration. Mom has recently been busy knitting sweaters for Sarah, pouring her love into every stitch. I'm going to knit the cutest sweater in the world, so get excited, she declared with enthusiasm in front of me. As for me, I've taken up baking, whipping up daily snacks while also preparing to make Sarah's birthday cake from scratch. Strawberry cake is nice, but how about an apple pie? What do you think, Sarah? I asked. Our little girl, after a moment's thought, tilted her head and brightly exclaimed, "Apple pie." Her adorable response brought a spontaneous smile to my face. Life might throw challenges at us as we go along. But whether it's work, parenting, or just dealing with everyday life, I believe in facing everything with a smile, taking one step at a time, and trusting the people around me. As long as Sarah is by our side, I'm confident we can handle anything.